You know, it can often be said that for every great idea or inspirational person out there, there is an inspirational idea or person behind them. And that is true for most critics, I'd like to believe, especially for me. But who is my inspiration? Who inspired me to start all this schlock and entertain you by torturing myself or watching the really good stuff? Doug Walker. It's not hard to see why, either. He's one of the most respected and probably one of the funniest web comedians that I've ever seen. Such a cynical person and yet has such a bright outlook on life. He's completely hilarious and yet extremely insightful. Whether he's looking over the good or the bad of the 80s or 90s, his Nostalgia Critic reviews are what really got me into being a critic myself.
Julia was one of the most charismatic actors who ever lived.
With that being said, we're going to honor Mr. Walker today by taking a look at some of his best work, at least in my opinion. This is the Top 11 Nostalgia Critic episodes, as chosen by yours truly. Why Top 11? Why, because it's the Nostalgia Critic, of course.
Oh my God! It sucks! Sad but true. I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it, so you don't have.
Number 11. The old versus new episode Batman vs. The Dark Knight. Now, it's very rare to hear the Nostalgia Critic talk about something in a very positive light, but when he does, he puts a lot of passion behind it, and it shows when he's talking about these two movies. And I can't blame him for that. Speaking as somebody who thoroughly enjoyed The Dark Knight but never saw the original Batman movie, this was one of his more impressive ones to me because even though I had never seen the movie, the arguments he builds around it as to why it is better or worse than The Dark Knight are very convincing. Still, that doesn't stop him from taking a jab at the story every now and then.
Rude! Good night, Star!
Oh, come on, we all know Batman would talk like this in real life. But of course he's not making these jabs just to tick people off. He does give reasons why he legitimately does not like or likes the specific parts of the movies that he's analyzing. And I really do think that it comes pretty close most of the time. That's why I really enjoy watching these. He's just so fair, and you really wouldn't expect that from the Nostalgia Critic, which is what makes this such a memorable episode in my opinion.
Now, both these films push the envelope of how to make a comic book movie.
Oh, and not to mention, it has probably one of the funniest endings in Nostalgia Critic history.
I'm a Nostalgia Critic guy, remember? So you don't have to.
Fucking answer!
I just don't get why you made Batman sound like he had lung cancer.
Oh, good for you! You're a nice guy!
Why, thank you.
Shut the fuck up!
You shut up! Go make Rain of Fire too!
No!
Yes!
No!
Yes!
For fuck's sake.
Now, at the time I'm recording this, the Nostalgia Critic also has two other old versus new segments out, one focusing on the two Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movies, and the one focusing on The Lord of the Rings. However, I choose this one over the other two mostly because, well, its analytic approach really makes it seem like it's the closest call out of the three videos. And I can't really blame him. I haven't even seen the first movie, and just by seeing what I've seen in this video, I think it would be pretty hard for me to choose between these two movies as well, whether I like one or the other better. And with that being said, I really have to say it's a very impressive video and well deserving of the number 11 spot on this countdown.
You don't mess with Mr. Mom.
So you don't have.
Number 10. The Alone in the Dark review.
Says I should pick an accent before I act.
Now this is a very different kind of critic review, mostly because it's focusing on such a recent movie. And I'm going to play devil's advocate here and just come out and say that if this had been done by the critic by himself, I really don't think it would have been that good. Especially with the fact that, well, Walker's voice wasn't feeling too good that week, so much like in his review of The Good Son, he wasn't talking that well.
Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it so you don't have to.
However, what makes this review so memorable is the fact that the Nostalgia Critic was not alone. He had the help of two other reviewers.
I saw the nostalgia signal in the sky.
Why did I install that?
In this review, the Nostalgia Critic teams up with Linkara from Atop the Fourth Wall and the Spoony One from the Spoony Experiment to take down one of Uwe Boll's most famous creations, Alone in the Dark. And I have to tell you, this is one of the wildest rides you'll ever take. I think what makes this review work so well is the fact that they interplay off of each other so well. It's just so funny to watch these guys together, and the jokes that they tell are just completely amazing.
One voice.
My precious.
No, honey, it's okay. Just call it off.
While the movie itself provides a plethora of joke opportunities, these reviewers aren't above taking a few shots at each other as well.
I'm acting. I like to wear women's clothing. I like to wear...
Speaking as someone who absolutely despises Uwe Boll and everything that he represents, I was all too happy to see him laid into by three of the greatest critics on the internet, and in my opinion, they did a bang-up job of it, and I am so happy that this team-up happened. There really was no other way to do a movie this horrible justice other than to have three of them take it on at once. And that's just one of the reasons why this makes it into number 10 on my top 11 list of the greatest Nostalgia Critic episodes.
Because it's a puzzle, you dummy! It's supposed to be hard to solve!
So you don't have...
Number 9. The Captain N, the Game Master review. Now, I consider myself a pretty big Nintendo fanboy, but even the most snobbish of us need to realize that Nintendo has sold out several times over the years, particularly in the area of movies or television shows. And the Nostalgia Critic has exemplified that several times in the past, but in my opinion, this is probably one of his best reviews that focuses on video game-related material. Now, the critic has covered several Nintendo-themed shows: the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the Legend of Zelda cartoon, and The Wizard. But again, I have to say that this one impressed me the most, mostly because it's just laugh-out-loud funny. That isn't to suggest those videos aren't any good. In fact, they're some of my personal favorites as well. But this one just seems much funnier to me, especially when he's talking about either the animation problems or Simon Belmont's character in this.
Fashion vomit? Where did they even get the idea to gay him up so much? I mean, the original hero has long hair, wears leather, carries a whip, jumps around in a skirt. I think I just answered my own question. But we're
Funny, creative, and a great vengeance for anybody who had to sit through this cartoon as a kid, especially us Nintendo fanboys. This is one Nostalgia Critic episode that I could watch over and over again, and then I'd go play Nintendo games, because, you know, this show sucks.
only $19.95, available at most video game outlets. Castlevania, Kid Icarus, Mega Man, or whatever the hell this chick was in are also available.
So you don't have...
Number 8. The Batman and Robin review. This is one of the critic's earliest reviews, and it does show. It does look a tad dated when compared to some of his more recent works, but it also is probably one of the first times that we really saw him tear into a horrible movie, and the first time that we really see him blow up. In fact, at one point he goes as far as to say this is one of the worst films that he's ever had to view. Which is actually a bit of an understatement when you consider that after this review he went on to view such classics as, Garbage Pail Kids, Warriors of Virtue, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue, Three Ninjas, Quest for Camelot, Tank Girl, and a bunch of other things as well. Even with all of that in mind, it's actually pretty interesting to see how well this review has aged, because it really is very entertaining, especially since it's one of the first encounters he has with Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is an actor that frequently shows up on his show. Not to mention, some of the things he tries to do to get out of the review are also very entertaining. And, of course, there's always the infamous Bat credit card scene.
A bat credit
Despite being an early video, it's still one of my favorites to this day, and it's an excellent contrast for his later work with The Dark Knight. Definitely worth a watch, definitely still hilarious, and definitely has another hilarious ending where he tells us exactly what he thinks of the movie in song.
Super crap, I'll fuck over the Ixty Yellow